So let's fly over the Northern Cape Rural TVET college campuses, located in what for me is the most austerely beautiful part of our country, a place where we have first evidence of our ancestors learning to control fire around about 1 million years ago, a place which has the longest train, 4 kilometers long, transporting iron all the way from the Sishen mines in Kathu all the way down to Saldanha Bay, a place which has these huge solar farms stretching over kilometers of desert and massive mines that dwarf the towns that they are nearby. And let's start off by visiting what was, in the 19th century, the biggest copper mine in the world, located in O'Keepe, and that's where our first campus is. Now, the first Dutch settlers noticed that the Nama, the Khoi people living in the area, had copper bracelets. And that set them off on the search for where these great sources of copper were. And what happened was they got information that it was located in this area over here. And initially they couldn't get through. It was just too tough a terrain, and they were trying to do it in summer. But eventually they cracked their way through, and by around about 1685, in this area of Springbok and O'Keepe, they found some copper mines. Now, it was impossible for them to actually get it going. The terrain was too difficult. It was described as having frightful ravines and wastes of sand and harbourless coasts. But eventually they cracked it, and what we have here is the site of South Africa's first white mine and first great mineral rush, long before the diamonds and the gold were discovered. So it's quite fitting that our first campus, the Namaqualand campus, is located over here. And it's a fantastic campus. It's newly built. It's got nice hostels for around about 100 students. You can do all sorts of trades here. Electrician, boilermaker, fitter, turner, welder, diesel mechanic. It's got a trade test centre. It's got adequate staff, around about 27 lecturing staff. It takes about 580 students. So as TVET college campuses go, this is an impressive campus located in what is very austere conditions, as you can see as we pull out. And I'd like to pull out over the old historical copper mine, which you will see below you to the left. And now we're going to fly over Namaqualand towards the Uppington campus. So we're flying in a generally easterly direction across the northern parts of South Africa. And in this area is the Black Mountain Complex. Now, it's a mine which has zinc, nickel, lead, copper, cobalt, all those fourth industrial revolution metals we need to make our smartphones and our computers. Now, Vedanta Zinc has basically set up a partnership with the Northern Cape Rural TVET campus in O'Keepe, and basically it's an 8 million rand training project. And the idea is that community members in this area can do courses in engineering, early childhood development. They can do professional cooking, welding, scaffolding, computer training. They're not doing it at O'Keepe, by the way. They're doing it in Pofada, which is just down the road at a school called Busman Land Hoërskool. So let's carry on in a northern easterly direction towards Uppington. You'll see the Orange River slowly snaking towards Uppington in the distance. But then what you'll notice is these massive solar plants. We are talking around about 20 square kilometers. Now, this is generating a substantial amount of electricity for the whole of the Northern Cape. And please, when you watch some of the other videos, especially those ones around in Mpumalanga, contrast what this looks like in comparison to the coal mines around the Witbank area. And when you see the pollution and the destruction around the Witbank area with the dirtiest air in the world, and contrast it to these newer technologies which are working with the sun, there's a recognition that we have to move forward into these new ways of working with energy rather than the old fossil fuel technologies. Now, we've been flying over the Namaqualand area, slowly but surely tracking a northeasterly direction, and what you're going to see is we're picking up on the Orange River around the Ugrabi's falls, and I just want to travel along the river for a while so you get a sense of the enormous commercial agricultural projects going on as we travel towards Uppington. And you will see that the Orange River's basically got these irrigation channels allowing these wine farms and other fruit farms to grow, enabling a big wine industry, brandy industry. Most of the people in this area speak Afrikaans. And this has made Uppington, which we're coming up to now, the place where all these grapes and fruits get sent to for processing. So it's a major area of dried fruit processing and wine making. But as always in South Africa, wherever there's valuable land, and this Orange River zone was increasingly recognized as having massive agricultural value. There have been terrible struggles between the Afrikaners, the Busters as they were known, the coloured community, and the black community in the area. But with that said, here we have a campus which is definitely trying to address those issues and transform and push our country into a new post-apartheid space. Just to say that I've watched a video, it's called Happy, on this campus where all the students are singing that song Happy and busy dancing and laughing. And it was very clear that the campus has got fantastic facilities and workshops. So you can do electrical, automotive, fabrication, fitting and turning. Got quite good sports grounds over there. They've got 3 hostels, accommodate around about 100 students. They can take 700 students full time. And they also offer a whole bunch of the business studies programs. So you can do public management, HR management, management assistant, financial management, business management, tourism, and so on. So a functioning TVET college for the community. And to say that the Uppington area has also been identified as a growth zone, a special economic zone to focus on renewable energy, production of renewable resources, to exploit and take advantage of the huge amounts of sunlight in the area. And to demonstrate this, let's visit my favorite solar plant in this whole area. It's called the Key Solar One plant. And if you look carefully, you'll see that those are all mirrors. And what they're doing is they're focusing heat to a central tower, which is around about 200 meters high. And then what happens is that's got a boiler, and that creates the energy needed to start to transform the heat or the thermal energy into electricity. And it is these new kinds of technologies that we have to think about introducing our students to, so they start to imagine what the future world of work and energy looks like. So now let's do a radical pullback, pulling back west, so over the Orange River, and we got a site looking far into the eastern distance, and there you can see the Kathu campus. Now there's going to be an enormous contrast here. If we've gone from the ancient mining of copper, which was the most malleable of metals and easy to mine, to this new solar energy that we've seen around Uppington. And now here we have one of the world's largest open pit mines. It's also from here, by the way, that 4-kilometer train basically transported iron ore all the way through to Saldanha Bay. Now, a huge amount of wealth is being generated through these kinds of operations, and some of it trickles down into this little town of Kathu. In fact, the people who stay here are around about, I think, the 4th highest income tax generators in the country. You've got like Johannesburg, you've got Cape Town, and then you've got Kathu. So it's also a place you'll see there's private schools. Curo's got a private school over here. But the other thing that's happened is the campus that you have over here is a superb campus. It has all the facilities that you could hope for. And on top of that, what's happened is Sishen Mine has also ensured that they've got their own training facility. It's called the Sivos Technical Training Center, and it's located right next to the Northern Cape Rural Kathu campus. Now let's say you wanted to do an artisan learnership through Sishen. Now what would happen is you could do that in either being a millwright, a plater, welder, a diesel mechanic, a fitter, or electrician. Now what they would want to know is that you've got your N2. They would then do an aptitude test and an interview to check that you actually are good enough. And then once you get through, they will provide you with a stipend, an allowance per month. They will ensure that you've got accommodation and meals. If you're from outside of Kathu, they will give you a toolbox, which becomes your property after you actually pass the trade test. You get the free training. What happens is in the first year, you do institutional theory at that Sivas Technical Training Center. Second year, you get on-the-job core training at the Sishen mine. And in the third year, you complete your trade test. Now, that is an example of the many billions that are being made through the Sishen iron mining complex trickling down into beneficial effects for some students who are going to benefit from the process. And as we pull out of Kathu with its private schools, people earning a fortune in salaries, excellent apprenticeships, and we see that red welt inflicted across the earth extracting iron, we have to start to think about the complexities of what it is to do technical and vocational education in South Africa. Now, we're still keeping in an easterly direction. We're now flying through to the Kuruman campus. And this is the smallest campus. It used to just be a kind of like a part-time center where they did some computer studies to help out people in the area. And it's slowly but surely grown. But really it's in very cramped and small facilities in the middle of town on a busy road. And when the parliamentary group went and visited this campus, they really were worried and upset about the fact that it's really difficult teaching conditions. But don't let the small TVET campus fool you in terms of the importance of Kuruman in terms of technical and vocational education. Because what you have there, and I've marked it for you, is Robert Moffat's mission station. Now, he was an astonishing missionary figure. I don't like missionary figures in general, but I have enormous respect for this man. He translated the Bible into Setswana and also Pilgrim's Progress, by the way. But more importantly than that, he basically introduced a lot of the locals into more modern types of agriculture, of farming. He certainly developed skills in blacksmithing, in building, carpentry, printing. And in the 49 years he lived in Kuruman, he contributed to technical and vocational education, even if it was from a highly Christian, paternalistic and British imperialistic position. Those are the tensions we have to deal with when thinking about vocational education. And just by the way, that green area you can see next to the TVET campus, that's called the Eye of Kuruman. It's basically this natural spring fountain which produces 20 to 30 million liters of water, even in drought. Old Moffat called it the fountain of Christianity. Now we're pulling out radically backwards, northwards, kind of towards Botswana, and stretching out right far ahead of you in the distance. You'll actually be able to see Cape Town. Try to get it so that you can see it right at the end point. What I want you to do is get a sense of how the campuses are located over huge distances. It's a major issue with this Northern Cape Rural. And from here we're going to fly to the Daar campus, but we're going to do it via the confluence of the Vaal River and the Orange River meeting at exactly this point. Two of our most powerful rivers kind of converging at this quiet little secret spot. And now we're going to fly through the central Karoo. Absolutely astonishing terrain. Daar is basically in the middle of the Karoo. It's in the middle of the central Karoo. And it's a major meeting point of 4 railway lines from Joburg, from Cape Town, from PE and from Namibia. You can see that massive railway junction in the middle. And so you won't see a major river running through this town. It's a railway line, because the reason for this town's existence are these railway lines meeting at this point. But actually there's massive amounts of water underneath the ground. The name Daar means arteries of water running down below. So there's enough borehole water here for everyone. And also check out the huge solar farms. You can see the one stretching out in a long line kind of near Daar, and then at the bottom left you can see a couple of other ones. There's also South Africa's biggest abattoir in this town for all the lamb and other animals coming in here to be slaughtered, along with a big wool industry. And on the far end of the one side we have the Daar campus. Now it's the second smallest campus. It doesn't have a hostel, doesn't offer all the programs. You can do engineering and related design, you can do fitting and turning, you can do public management and HR management, and you can learn to become a management assistant here. So if we add up all the campuses of Northern Cape Rural, well, then we have about 114 lecturing staff, we have about 85 support staff, and we're dealing with about 3,400 students in total. And the major thing they're struggling with as we pull out from Da'ar are the huge distances between the different campuses. But for me, what astounds me as we pull out of the central Karoo, astonishing vision, is the huge ancient history of this area. You have the Vondervat caves, where we have first evidence of us learning to control fire. That's our first great technology. The second thing we have is we have those copper mines in the Makwaland. Now that was one of the first metals that we mastered the use of as human beings. We have the iron mines of Kathu, which for me symbolizes the great Iron Age where we mastered the difficulty of working with iron. It's got such a difficult and high melting point that it took enormous energy with fire to work out how to work with iron properly. We have the Orange River with its astonishing agricultural production. And then we have these new attempts with solar energy and solar power to move us forward into a very different future. All caught in a zone which one of our best TVET colleges is currently working within.